2027 is the year. The collapse of society is a result of humanity's inability to reproduce for nearly 20 years, which has led to the species' impending extinction. One of the few countries still having an operational government is the United Kingdom, which has led to a surge in the unauthorized immigration of migrants. In order to apprehend immigrants for detention, or maybe execution, this has led to the army patrolling the streets. The narrative commences when Theo, the main character, walks into a bakery to purchase coffee and notices on the TV that the youngest person on Earth has died. He had to deal with his celebrity status for years, which his age had won him, until a fan attacked him for refusing to sign autographs. The tragedy seemed to have affected everyone in the shop, but Theo doesn't seem to be too concerned. Just as he is about to leave the bakery and halt a few feet away to put some whiskey in his coffee, there is an explosion coming from the store. Thankfully, Theo escapes unharmed despite the loud screaming and sounding alarms. Theo leaves the incident unfazed, going about his business with an irksome ringing in his ears. The majority of people at the office are too preoccupied with grieving over the death of the youngest person on record to really complete any work. Theo uses this as an opportunity to pretend to be angry at the news, telling his boss he is too, and then requests permission to complete his work from home before heading off. As he travels back, insurgents and impoverished people frequently throw stones at the train he is riding in. The station is also home to numerous cages containing refugees that are watched over by police officers. Theo doesn't even blink in response to this. Theo runs across his old friend Jasper outside the station. After giving each other a hug, they get into Jasper's car and head to his rural home while talking about the bakery explosion and speculating that the government might have planted the bomb. A bus carrying migrants to a camp in Bexhill passes by, and they witness it. Jasper's property is deep in the woods, so deep that the only way to get by is to stop the car and push some fake branches out of the path. Jasper teases Theo about his lack of a romantic life and his drinking, and he extends an invitation for Theo to move in with him. Theo declines. Once they're inside the house, pictures and newspaper clippings reveal that Jasper was a political cartoonist in the past, and that his wife Janice was a photojournalist. Unfortunately, Jasper has turned into a drug dealer and hippie these days, and Janice has been abused to the point of necrosis. Other ancient photos of Theo include him with a small boy and a woman. Jasper, Theo and Janice greet each other, then spend some time smoking and talking about different subjects on the couch. Jasper states that his primary customer is an immigration police officer at the Bexhill camp. They fight over the potential existence of the Human Project, a covert scientific group that has covert facilities and is searching for a way to end sterility in humans. The following day, Theo returns home, only to have a militant organization known as the Fishes abduct him on the street as he departs for work. He is placed in the van with his face concealed, and they don't reveal him until they are inside Fish's domain. When Theo opens his eyes once more, he finds himself in a secure room where, for the first time in years, he sees Julian, his ex-wife. She apologizes for the show, but they had to do this to get away from the police. Since their days as activists, she has been sought after, but Theo has moved on from that life. Julian takes Theo for a walk outside after clarifying that they weren't the ones who detonated the bomb in the bakery. She has forced him to come because she needs transfer documents so that a girl who is a refugee can reach the coast, and Theo can obtain them through his cousin. Theo declines the proposal, and when Julian offers money in exchange, he lies blatantly and claims he doesn't need her money. Julian forces her team to hide his face once more and remove him from their position because he isn't cooperating. One of the Fishes informs Theo that they would constantly be keeping an eye on him, and that this has never happened while they are in the vehicle. Theo is then dumped in the middle of the street with some coin for the bus, after another person gives him a paper sign to place on the tube in case he changes his mind. A while later, it appears that Theo does, in fact, have a change of heart when he pays his ministerial cousin Nigel a visit. He is picked up by a chauffeur-driven limousine and driven to the private home of the minister, who preserves and restores famous artwork, including Michelangelo's David, which is missing a leg. They hug and then eat lunch together with the minister's kid, who plays on a screen that is attached to his body but pays them no attention at all. Theo requests for the transfer documents after questioning his cousin about his wife, inventing a reason that his girlfriend needs them to see her critically ill brother in Brighton. After yelling at his son to take his medication, Nigel asks Theo to join him to the window, where he tells him he'll see what he can do. Nigel notes that it's a tremendous favor because it's highly controlled. When Theo asks why Nigel preserves all of this artwork when no one will be around to see it in a century, Nigel says he simply doesn't give it any thought. A few hours later, while Theo is at a tavern, Luke, one of the Fishes, approaches him after noticing the notice Theo had received put outside. Theo clarifies that although he received the paperwork, they are joint. Thus, he will be the one to escort the girl. a duty he is willing to take on if paid extra. Luke agrees, since Julian finds Theo to be very admirable. When Theo is betting on the dogs the following day, he is approached by the same fish again. This time, it's a woman who gives him the same sign he gave him the day before. Julian is waiting for him on a bus, so he follows her outdoors. They end up fighting over how they handled the death of their child, Dylan, and their final separation after she inquires about the paperwork and starts talking about the good old days. As they quickly exit the bus after arriving at their destination, Theo asks Julian why he was picked, to which she responds that she believes in him. He also asks what will become of them, to which Julian replies, "I don't know," right before kissing him. He's just here for the money, she claims. They travel over a bridge and meet Luke there. Luke gives Theo his money right away when he asks for it. They get in the car and Theo is introduced to a woman named Miriam and the young girl he would be escorting, Key, while they are telling him that he will be brought to the first checkpoint in Canterbury, and after that, he will be on his own with the child. They travel to Canterbury via car. Theo falls asleep at the start of the vacation, but upon waking up later, he and Julian play a quick game of golf and reminisce about their earlier days as campaigners. They are ambushed by an armed gang just as they are about to arrive at their location. Julian is shot. When they escape the gang via car, the police show up and start chasing after them. Having no choice but to pull over and let everyone out of there as quickly as possible, Luke shoots both police officers after getting out of the car. To bid farewell to Julian, they pause. Theo holds his composure until he gets away from them, at which point he lets himself cry while the two women cover the body with shawls and offer prayers. This, however, is short-lived as Luke promptly orders them to return to the car in order to escape being discovered once more. When they go to a fish's safe house, it's getting dark, and everyone is gathering to choose a new leader for the gang. When Theo requests a trip to London, he is informed that it is too risky and that he will have to wait until the next day. He is instead offered clean clothes and a shower. He chats with one of the fishes after cleaning up before Miriam finds him and takes him to Key. As the fishes elect Luke to be their new leader, she leads him to the barn. Theo finds himself alone in the barn with Key, who informs him that Theo is the only person she can rely on to transport her to the boat known as the Tomorrow, and that Julian told her stories about their child. In an attempt to talk Theo out of it, Key confesses her secret, that she is pregnant, while removing her dress. The moment is cut short when Luke ushers them all back into the home. Theo is stunned and finds it hard to believe what he's seeing. After seeing the news on TV, they decide to find out who was in the car with Julian since her body has been discovered. Identifying them should not be too difficult according to the police. The fishes disagree that Key should be made public because the government will take away her child, but Theo believes she has to be given the care she needs. This leads to a dispute on what should be done with her. If they don't go meet that boat, they might miss their one and only opportunity because the Human Project can be rather hard to get in touch with. When her baby is born, Key still wants to be transferred to the Tomorrow, even though she has chosen to remain and give birth in the safe house. Theo is awakened later that night by the sounds of people arriving outside because he is unable to fall asleep. He moves stealthily to find out what's happening and discovers that it's the same folks who attacked them before. Luke had planned the ambush in order to seize custody of the infant and utilize it as a political instrument for their revolution. This meant that he would become the new leader. In a fit of rage, Theo dashes to Key and Miriam's bedroom to inform them of the situation and assist them in fleeing. Slipping out of sight, they approach each car cautiously, disabling two of them and getting into the non-starting third while staying out of sight of the vigilantes. The fishes become interested as Theo gets off and begins pushing it. The car doesn't start again, but at least it moves because they're traveling downhill, so Theo gets back in it. Theo and Miriam shove the men away as they try to grab them through the window because they are pursuing them, but cannot shoot because the girl is inside the car. The car stops again in the middle of a hill, and Miriam jump-starts it while Theo gets out to push. After several attempts, the car eventually starts up and runs so beautifully that Theo has to chase after it to get back inside. After Theo returns with the women, Miriam stops it for him and they are able to leave the farm. Theo brings them to Jasper's house, where he welcomes them with wide arms, telling Miriam that he knows of a place where they can hide. They talk about their alternatives while eating dinner, because there are only 2 stops on the Human Project's boat, and neither one seems promising. The Bexhill is the refugee camp, and Windsor is too far away to get there in time. That seems like the answer, so Jasper tells them to eat while he prepares a few things. Key is braiding Janice's hair while Miriam is outside doing a form of outdoor yoga the following morning. Theo walks up to her and inquires about her pregnancy. She tells him she is 8 months along and doesn't know who the father is. The party may meet Jasper's cop buyer at the Bexhill camp, who would smuggle them inside so they can reach their boat. Jasper says as he returns with a plan. Key approves this scheme, Dusk descends. Theo hears the others conversing and enjoying a cigarette while he is drinking. Jasper narrates to the women how Theo and Julian met by happenstance while participating in a protest. Their relationship took a negative turn when they lost their child to the outbreak of the virus. Theo leaves them to their conversation and heads to bed, unable to bear to hear any more of it. Everyone is startled awake the following morning by the news that the fish had located them. After giving Theo his contact information for Sid, Jasper sends him to the car with the women, but he declines to accompany them. He claims to have escaped worse circumstances and wants to stay. Theo drives the girls away, but he pulls over on a hill so he can observe what's happening inside the home from a distance. The fishes show up, and they shoot Jasper because they don't like his responses. Theo drives off, this time for good, saying nothing is wrong but not letting Key know. The following day, they arrive at the abandoned school where they are supposed to meet. While Key is having fun on the swings, Miriam tells Theo about her previous career as a midwife and how she observed the infertility problem gradually affecting each of her patients. Then a pickup pulls up, and it's their contact, Sid. Sid puts them in the vehicle and takes them to the refugee camp after they have exchanged passwords. They inform Sid that Key's contractions are only a result of her being carsick as she approaches her first one. When they arrive at Bexhill, Sid instructs them to put on dejected refugee expressions before transferring them from the truck to a bus that is swiftly leaving the region. Key's contractions soon worsen, and by the time they reach the actual camp, her water breaks. When a guard notices that Miriam is upset, she pretends to be having a religious episode to divert his attention. As a result, she is led away to be executed. Theo effectively drives him away by pointing at the water on the floor between her knees and stating that it is urine and filth just as he is about to grab Key. After getting off the bus, Theo and Key get in line. Theo briefly loses Key when a guard tells him to take off his clock, but they quickly find each other again. After being eventually freed into the city that turned into a camp for refugees, they search for Marichka, a Romanian woman who shows them how to enter a secure abandoned building and provides them with a private room where Key can give birth. Key experiences a difficult labor, but with Theo's assistance, she eventually gives birth to a healthy baby girl. Sid stops by to see how they're doing the following day. After a wall blew up and people began to flee, the city turned into a perilous mess, so Sid came to help them get out. Upon seeing the infant, he makes a vow. He makes a commitment to take them to a boat as soon as he sees the baby, but Marichka objects, suggesting he isn't a good man. After pulling out his revolver, Sid says he is aware that a bounty is being placed on their heads, and he intends to fulfill it. Theo charges at Sid to pull him away from Key as Marichka pushes him off as they make their way downstairs. The three of them begin to flee as Sid breathes on their backs after Marichka strikes him with a stick. When Sid becomes stuck on the door, Theo kills him with a brick to the head as they proceed down a hallway to a street. Marichka becomes confused when Theo asks her about the boat, but she eventually understands and begins leading them to it in the middle of the fighting between the fishes and the soldiers. She forces them to enter a building, and once they show the owner the baby via a window, they are given permission to enter an incredibly elegant apartment. There, two older women play with the baby while they dine, relax, and get Theo new shoes. After an hour, they place Key in a wheelchair and exit the premises after one of the guards informs them they must leave. They soon find Luke and the fishes when they start running again. After leaving the other fishes to shoot Theo and Marichka, Luke takes Key and the baby with him. As they prepare to do so, additional military personnel show up, providing Theo and Marichka with an opportunity to flee and attempt to locate Key. Even after getting separated from Marichka, Theo continues on, dodging fish and troops until he enters a building that is heavily fire defended. Finally, after a series of steps, he finds Key and her infant next to Luke, who is attempting to persuade them of his good intentions when a bomb goes off in the building, taking his life. The infant is so adorable that everyone in the building is in awe of him that Theo easily leaves the building with Key and the baby in tow. They are touched by the refugees, as though they are a vision, and they also let them go when the fishes stop them. The infant was observed by the troops as they were exiting the building, and they began to shout for the gunfire to stop so they could allow the infant pass. Everyone outside watches them in disbelief as they leave, but the moment the three get sufficiently distanced from the structure, the fire starts up again. After a little while, they return to the building entrance where they were first apprehended and meet up with Marichka, who at last leads them to an underground passageway where their boat awaits. Marichka pushes the boat and sends them into the sea after he refuses to go with them. Theo continues to row till they reach the buoy that will act as their meeting place. Theo informs Key that the blood on the boat is his, that he has been shot, but that he is okay as he waits. After learning how to burp the wailing infant from Theo, Key decides to name her daughter Dylan in honor of Theo. At that moment, just as the Tomorrow shows up to take Key and Dylan to safety, Theo loses consciousness and might even die. We really hope you enjoyed today's recap of Children of Men. Please leave a comment below of what you loved about the movie and why. Be sure to like the video and please don't forget to support our channel by subscribing so you don't miss any amazing content. Until next time, lights, camera, action. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.